So when I saw that video, I thought, oh my gosh, that is preachable. Because what's been on my mind is perspective. You know, how we perceive things around us, how we perceive our world. Who doesn't have that annoying meowing cat in their life? It's just that person or thing or situation that you just like, oh my God, would it please just stop? Would it go away, please? I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. I think we all have that thing. And we oftentimes will say, how long do I have to put up with this? Or I don't deserve this. I have so much, I've done good things. Why am I getting this annoying thing in my world? What am I doing wrong? And it happens to all of us. It's just part of our life experience. And our life, if our life was mellow and sweet all the time and easy without challenges, we would not grow. We would just stay in a status quo environment. That's not what we're here in Earth School for. We call it Earth School. I mean, it's what we're here to learn and to grow by. Without challenges, we don't have anything that would develop our synaptic connections in our brain. It's the challenge of life that we start making sense of things. We connect our thoughts, connect what we did and how the outcome was and how we could do it better. And it develops the synaptic connections in our brain. And we would flatline if we didn't have challenges. We just flatline emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And you know what happens when kids are bored? When they flatlined in their imagination, they get into trouble, right? Because they need a challenge. So they start dreaming up a challenge and then they get in trouble because they're doing something that's outside of the norm or something out of their imagination. Beating up their brother, perhaps it might be that. I know my daughter, she grew up with a bunch of kids and they all kind of grew up together. And, as she got older, I started hearing more and more about what they did because we were all on a farm. And I had no idea that they were building fires out there in the pine trees and digging holes and putting something over the top of it so that the other one would try to get trapped and they'd try to trap the other kid and all these really imaginative things that I didn't know. But anyway, they all grew up fine and they're all pretty smart kids. Well, they're kids to me. They're all adults now. But we need challenge to thrive and we need challenge to grow and be more. One of my favorite examples of the lack of challenge is this family that I know. They're wonderful people. They're very well off financially. And as their two girls were growing up, their parents and the grandparents all took care of these two girls. And the parents went through some really difficult challenges. And they never wanted their children to experience that. They wanted their kids to never know those kind of hardships. So between the parents and the grandparents, they raised these girls with an easy life. I mean, everything was taken care of for them. All the difficulties were smoothed out and handled. And it's kind of on the surface, it sounds like, whoa, pick me for your kid next time. I want that. This life is hard. It'd be nice to have a little easy ride for once in a while. But as a result of that upbringing of being so protected and all life's problems were taken care of and they were never without, everything that they needed in every way, when they became young adults, they were not adapt to life. They didn't know how to cope. And they were, upset. I mean, they had supposedly in their mind, they had all these problems and including suicidal ideation. I mean, it went down the gamut from not being able to cope with everyday life and solutions and things like that, even though they were highly educated because their parents could afford it. But life they didn't have the synaptic connections. It took them quite a while to develop the strength of adulting in a normal world that we wouldn't even think two thoughts of. Anybody, that had a normal life of challenges would develop. So it really taught me the gift that challenges give us, the skills that they develop within us. And they turned out fine eventually, but and they're coping fine and having their kids of their own, and but hopefully not repeating, making everything so good for them that the kids don't have the normal skills of life and adulting. So this musician, he took that meowing cat and just listened to that sound, and then with his creativity and his imagination, turned it into something that was fun and funny and livable, right? And that's kind of, we all have that meowing cat in the background. So with our creativity and imagination, that's a perfect metaphor for what we can do for our life. So when you have that annoying thing, just don't focus on the irritation, focus on your own creativity, your own skills, your own things that you've learned in your life, that you can turn that into something that is supportive to you in an emotional way. I want to share with you a parable. It's called The Muddy Road. So Tanzan and Ikuto were once traveling together down a muddy road. A heavy rain was still falling. They were coming around the bend, and they met this lovely girl in a silk kimono and a sash, and she was unable to cross the intersection due to the mud. So, "Come on, girl," said Tanzan at once, and he lifted her up in his arms and carried her across the mud over to the other side where she was trying to go. And Ikuto didn't speak again in their travels that night until they reached the lodging temple where they were going to stay. And then he could no longer refrain from saying something, even though he hadn't spoke all day. He says, "We monks don't go near females," he said, "especially not young, lovely ones. It's dangerous. Why did you do that?" Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? He said, "I left the girl there, but you've been carrying her all day." Isn't that good?
That's great.
And it's a perfect metaphor for what we do and how we carry our stories and our angst and the things that we observe or experience. So long after the situation, had been dealt with, or that we have to deal with, and we're no longer in that hurtful situation, we're no longer in that hurtful relationship, or away from the people that said that thing that made us feel so bad, or that made us, feel diminished. We're still carrying the story years later. We're still carrying the burden of that story and the pain in our heart, perhaps. So I met with Kyle yesterday. I'm throwing you under the bus, my friend.
Been there before.
So I met with him yesterday to experience his skill in iridology. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's reading the irises of the eye to see what the body's doing. But he not only does that, but he takes it to the next level of, what does that mean? If that's going on in your body, what does it mean emotionally? And so I really appreciated that. So I think you're one of the few people around that does iridology, much less take it to that level. So it was really good, I have to say. So he tells me, what he sees, and then he equates it to the emotion that I'm carrying. Dude, that's, where the root of that is from. It's like, dang, I got work to do. I didn't know that, or I didn't want to admit that. But then once the truth is told, it's told right there. The truth is in your eyes, right? Now I have to go face that meowing cat. And I have to apply my skills. Ugh, not fun.
Well, you can just make a song out.
I make a song out of it, exactly. I need to apply my creativity and imagination, make a song out of it, and sing it out. So I'm not any different than you all in any way. I still, we all have work to do. I have work to do. So I appreciated that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You're going to hand out your cards when you're done? He's good. He has a real skill, and he's got the equipment for it, or will be soon, for really next level iridology. So anyway, I'm going to tell another story. And I've told this story before in the past, but it's been a long time. So I'm not turning into a J. God loving. Right. So no, many years ago, I have to say many twice because it was that many years ago. It was a lot of years ago. The older I get, the more manys I have to add. I realized when I was thinking about this story and how it applies to the topic, I have to say many because it was a lot of years ago. Whew. Anyway, I was dating this guy, and he was quite affluent in our community, and he was going through his second divorce, and he was really finding his spirituality. He had found a teaching that really resonated with him, and he was trying his best to practice it. And so I had to, that's kind of where we had our common ground was over that kind of stuff. So as a result of his spiritual practice, what he interpreted his spiritual practice to be, when it came to the divorce, he was willing to just give his second ex-wife everything that she wanted. And what she wanted was half of everything he had. And so as we're talking about this, and we had a lot of discussions around this, I said, that's not fair. That's not fair to you, because you acquired your lifestyle and then she came into it, and you have children from your first marriage, that if she takes half of everything, that's not really fair to them. And if it was your first marriage that built your business, it built your whatever business he was in, that brought him all the assets, and that's not fair to your kids from that marriage. And so it's like, yeah, and to me, it's a sign. He saw it as a sign of strength, of being and faith, of being willing to just give what they were asking for, or she was asking for, and I saw it as a sign of weakness, just rolling over and not standing up for himself. So we had a lot of discussions around this. Well, come court date, he decided to stand up for himself, or what I interpret to be to stand up for himself, and he went in and she got what she came into the marriage with. She got to take back out, and then she got half of whatever assets or gain was acquired in the duration of their marriage. That's fair. I thought it was extremely fair. So I, celebrated his standing up for himself and doing the right thing for his first marriage children. He didn't have any children, but with his second marriage. So anyway, but since we were in a small community, I knew both of his ex-wives. You know how it is in a small town. And I knew them both. They were nice ladies. There was nothing wrong with them. They were both great ladies, and we got along fine. But then again, many years later, so it's only one many, I was working at Salem Hospital in Human Resources, and I was the lead for the front desk, the reception desk. So whenever there were issues or problems, they came and got me, and I stepped out and took care of the problems. And so it was a very busy place also, doing interviews and new hires and all the things that go on in that environment. Well, I got called out to talk to this guy that had some issues, one of our employees, and I'm standing there talking and listening to what it is he had to say about it. And I'm feeling over here this woman boring a hole through me. And I can feel it energetically, and I can see her in my peripheral, and she's just like that. And I just thought, I don't know what that's about, but I'm going to look and see if I recognize her when I get a chance. So finally I got a chance to turn, and I looked at her, and I didn't recognize her. Something was kind of familiar, but I didn't know. And so I just went on my way, and I was aware she was there for an interview. And then I was helping this guy take care of his issue, and all of a sudden this woman who's boring a hole through me jumped up and ran out and ran down the hall. I thought, whoa, I don't know what that's about, but okay. And then a little while later, she came back in and asked to talk to the recruiter. So the recruiter took her into her office, and she said, can I see a list of your employees that you have here in HR? And so she showed her, and she looks at it. And well, the woman was really, she had a lot of integrity. I have to give her credit. Because she wouldn't say who, but she said, I can't work here. There's somebody on this list that I can't be here. And so then later the recruiter came to me and she said, Madge, I think, and she told me the story, and she goes, I think it's you. And I said, whoa, I can usually get along with the devil himself. I don't know what this is about. But okay. So anyway, I said, give me, her name. I didn't recognize her name. So I said, let me look at her resume and let's see if there's anything I can figure out with that. So she brings me her resume, and I'm looking through it, and nothing's matching, nothing's making sense. Get down at the very end, and in the year that this guy and I were dating, she had listed that she'd worked in his office, which many wives do, work in their, spouse's office. And then I put the pieces together. Then I recognized her first name. She'd been married. The last name changed. Been a lot of years. Hadn't seen her. People change. And then I realized who it was, and it was his second wife. That I was talking to him about standing up for himself, and she lost the case, and she obviously blamed me. And so all those years, she'd been carrying this story about her loss in court. Meanwhile, I have no clue. Life is good. I get married to Joe. Everything's fine. I'm moving on in my world. I have never thought of this woman again in my life. But she's still carrying this towards me because she blamed me for losing in court. I don't know what her story was that she cooked up, but it was obviously me. And I thought, oh my God, that taught me so much about carrying the burden of a story that we have. The other people don't care. I didn't care. I mean, it never even hit my radar. We didn't, the other guy and I assumed that was what I was in the relationship with him for, was to help him through the divorce. And once that was done, then I'm, moved on. We all went our separate ways. I never thought another thing of it. But she was still carrying the grudge and still carrying the pain, so much so that she had to pass up a good paying job and a career advancement because she had this story. I thought, oh my goodness, what a terrible thing to do to yourself. And to, everybody that's in your world that is going to be advanced or advantaged by your career path. I just thought, man, I never thought two thoughts of her, but she was still so heavily burdened by the experience. So that really, really taught me so much about how we carry our truth. To her, that was her truth. And it was so true to her that she had to do this. She was still carrying the girl across the muddy stream. She was still listening to the meowing cat in the background, and I had long since moved on. So but we all have a situation, where we're like that. And we all have to move on and let it down, let the girl down, let the story down, and create a new story through our creativity, through our imagination, rewrite our story and make it a positive one. Flip it over. What did we get out of that situation? Sometimes no is a full sentence from God. No, I'm not going to answer your prayer. That's not for your highest and greatest good, because you don't know what's down the road. No, I'm not going to let you win in court because that's not fair. That's not, or whatever the story was, from a spiritual perspective, the answer was no, you're not going to get that. And we have to be in grace, or we should be, if we could be in grace with that, and just say, well, there must be another purpose. There must be another outcome that's better for me. My sister, I learned so much from her, as she has this saying that she says, everything works out for me. It doesn't matter what the situation is, how difficult or how ugly or how whatever people are doing in her organization. She's like, everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. And it does, because she affirms it over and over again. She doesn't carry the story of what's happening and retell it. She just says, everything works out for me. And it does. So I think that's a beautiful thing to continue to practice. So it's not worth the spots in your eyes reflecting the truth. Thinking of Kyle reading my iris. It's not worth holding on to those. We want to be healthy in all levels of being. And it's so healthy to truly let down the burdens of those stories and to move on and to express our skills and express our talents in the best way that we can in our journey through life, through these, through the stories and experiences that happen to us. So let's do a little meditation on that note. And I want to try to bring this lesson to life So close your eyes, get yourself comfortable, and think of what situation in your life is that meowing cat, or what girl are you continuing to carry across the road? And kind of bring that situation up in your mind, in your imagination, in your heart. What is still alive in you that is not serving your highest and greatest good anymore? What reel are you running in the subconscious mind as if it's true, even though it's not today? And with that situation, let's honor it. See yourself bowing deeply to that situation or that person and giving thanks. Thank you for that experience. I might not have enjoyed it in the time, and I never will, but I'm a richer person for it. I'm a better person for it because I grew, or I'm going to grow because of it. I'm learning new things in life. I have deeper understanding. I have deeper compassion. Whatever is the positive that is the equivalent that matches that situation. Gravitate to that and let that be your new story. As you rewrite this new story, you can make true for you, whether it's growth, whether it's a new skill, whether it's more compassion, or even if it's as simple as, I don't want to repeat this experience to someone else. That is a beautiful gift that is being born of you as well. Just to know and have knowledge and information and wisdom. Let this story of yours, this experience, turn into wisdom that you carry in your soul, and you carry it in a new way. You carry it in a way now that you don't need to retell it. You carry it in a way now that it's just wisdom. It's a part of who you are. And you can share that wisdom with others in a way that is without the story. And then it is true wisdom. So feel that wisdom within you growing in your heart. Feel that wisdom becoming a part of how you language your tomorrows. Part of how you language yourself with other people. And hold that level of wisdom and integrity with yourself. And with Source and with God. So when we go to the other side, we will review. So we might as well hold it now in the highest truth that we know. Let your heart expand with the love. Let your heart expand with the goodness of the world, knowing that you are a better person today than you were before. That experience expanded your heart, expanded your growth. Give deep gratitude for that. And thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Universe, for the growth and the beauty that I now can experience as I let go and elevate myself through the wisdom and growth experiences. Let it be so. Amen. All right. So what's next? Let's see. The offering. Like I'm barely present. The offering and then announcements. Then we have a little special celebration. All right. So let's put our gift to the home center between our hands. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. Thank each one of you for the generosity and the support of our home spiritual center, knowing that this gift is being blessed as we receive it by you and your energies, and we circulate it back out into the world, coming back to you multiplied 100 times of all of wants, needs, and desires that are going to serve your highest and your greatest good. Let that be your truth. Amen. All right. So announcements. I forgot to bring my calendar up.